it'll all go smoothly. I've had a summer off too, you know. All right, where was I gonna go with this? All right. First official math class, welcome. I'm Emily. We've sort of met under strenuous circumstances. But I will say this, I'm very impressed with that diagnostic. And so good job. That test, I don't know. I gave them to Allison. I don't know what happened to them afterwards. But if you want to see them, then Allison has them. There were a couple of questions that, if we have time today, that I just wanted to kind of go through. But as I mentioned last week, we are going to cover all that material again. So it was just kind of a way to see where you're at. Oh. Nice. Thank you. All right. So first class, course outline day, right? Yeah. I know I'm all thrown off because I did course outlines last week in my other classes, and then here we go. Okay, so I went onto our Moodle page. I could have sworn I set it up last week, and I went on this weekend and I was like, this isn't set up. So yeah, so I was working away on that. Yeah, it was like once that diagnostic was done, like those guys, they're done for a little bit, put you on the back burner. But anyway, so at the top, I post my information. Okay, thank you. Name's Emily. Emily. That's Chris. Yeah. I was trying to get my nephew to call me Easy E. It didn't take off, but maybe it will. My email, obviously. I give out my cell phone, and a lot of my colleagues think that's so weird, but it works for me, and I find that it's kind of a way of speeding up the question process, right? And so, because don't call me, I won't pick up. My phone's always on silent unless I'm expecting a very important phone call. And even then, I usually forget to turn the ringer on. But anyways, that's just me. So I won't pick up, but absolutely text me. What I find is, or email me, they both go to my phone, it doesn't matter. But what I find is when we're texting, it cuts out a lot of the formalities, right? When I'm sitting, or when I'm writing an email, for some reason I have to sit down, right? That's step number one, sit down. Okay, good afternoon. Hey, decide on your intro, right? Hope you're doing well. Oh, right? And so all that kind of stuff. But if you're texting, then you can just say, hey, I'm working on this question. Here's a picture of what I've done. What's going on here? Why isn't it working? And then usually I'll just kind of use my finger on my phone. It makes a mess, right? But I'll be like, here, and then I send it back, and then it just kind of moves things along faster. If you're an email type of person, that's totally fine. Like I said, they go to the same place. But I do find that kind of texting, often pictures back and forth, is just a little bit quicker, a little bit easier. And then you don't have to type out what you've done, right? You can just send me a picture. That said, I'm an adult, so I can decide when it's appropriate to reply to a text and when it's not, when it works for me. And so with that in mind, if you have a question that you're working on, I want you to just send it to me no matter the time of day, okay? And so often what I find is putting it out into the universe, you get there eventually, right? So often, many times, I wake up and there's a series of messages, and then it ends with, got it, thanks. I'm like, oof, that was easy. So So just putting it out there, maybe even formulating the question helps, right? So that's kind of a first step. And so that's why I say don't hold back. If you're working on something, just get it out there. Maybe, try it. Don't just ask right away, right? Try it. It's not working. It's not working. Then text it away. Okay? And I try to reply as soon as I can, obviously. But if it's been a long time, then maybe send a follow-up. All right. Usually if I'm busy and I can't get to it till later, I'll let you know, just kind of normal etiquette. Any questions about that? I'm in C104 with Frank and Joya, but Joya's teaching the Calc 1 section so if you want to take calculus instead of this course, that's great. You would be with Joya. But I'm in the same office as Frank, and so usually no one comes to see me. I was like, hey, I'm like, hey, is Frank here? Yes, Frank's here. All right, so I am pretty much always around, pretty much. And so I say office hours are by appointment. By that, I mean, if I'm here, you can come see me, right? And if I'm busy, I'll tell you, right? If I'm kind of prepping for a different class or whatever, I'll let you know. But and if I'm not in my office, you can always text me or email me and be like, hey, are you on campus today? Yeah, sure am. Be there in 5. Right? Usually I'm just hanging out with my friends, my coworkers, or something like that. Okay, so I'm around, and even if you don't want to work in person, this is my Zoom room. Okay, this is the room that I use for all my lectures, any sort of Zoom meetup, whatever. So that's just my room. And so if you prefer, we can always just meet on Zoom, right? You can ask me, hey, can we hop on Zoom? Yeah, you got it. And this is where you would go, okay? As you've noticed, I host my lectures in Zoom. Just in case, you can't get here, it is really early, and as the weather gets worse, right, I find that I live really close, and so for me to get here is usually not that difficult, although I had some white knuckle moments last year, and I'm just downtown, so not very far. I'm on the flats, and yeah, so anyway, so if for whatever reason can't make it, that's totally fine. You can join on Zoom. You will only see the screen, obviously the shared screen, and hear my voice, okay? So you don't get me flossing, but maybe you'll survive without it, I don't know. Maybe by the end of the term, I'll know how to floss. Or maybe that's passé now. No, I know that's passé. Anyways, I'll learn some sort of TikTok dance. All right. So you can join online, that's totally fine. You have to know your own learning style, right? But however you learn the material, I don't really care how you do it, right? You can come to class if you find that's helpful. You can join online if you find that's helpful. You can just read the textbook if you find that's helpful, right? That's up to you to decide how you're gonna learn this stuff, okay? My job is to give you all the options, right? And so after class, I post the lectures on YouTube, right? Something's come up, you had to miss class, whatever. Then I expect you to watch the video to get caught up, right? Or, read through the notes. I also post the notes, whatever I write in class, I post it. And so you'll have all these resources, which is, as a student, you're probably like, oh, wow, that's crazy. She gives us all this. And I'm like, yeah, I give you all that so that then I put the onus on you guys, right? And you got to stay on top of it. I give you all these things. So you can't email me or text me being like, hey, I missed class. Can you tell me what we did? Well, go watch the video. Probably do it on like 1.5 double time because it ends up being really, really slow. But it's up to you. I had one girl one time. She said in class, she was just writing, furiously writing. She's going so fast, it's crazy. And then she'd go and rewatch the videos after class to fill in her notes and whatever. And then she said, yeah, but I know it was the same class. I know it was, but you're going so slow. It's like, yeah, that's the thing about hearing it for the second time too, right? So yeah, just kind of funny. But so right now, there's nothing. There's an empty playlist. You can find an old Math 128 playlist, but you'll get all new material. No, not all new, but pretty much. Okay. You can check out my other courses too. Be sure to like and subscribe. No, I don't care. I posted my schedule just so you know. It's also posted outside my office, right? Just so you know if, I'm in a class or maybe it's a Tuesday, Thursday, I'm incognito. I don't know. I'll be around, but I'm free and easy Tuesday, Thursdays. So Steve and Joya, they don't like how I lay out my schedule. They say I'm on the negative y-axis, right? They want it like this. No one's commented before, but now that they've said it, it's one of those things I can't unsee it now. But it works for me, I don't know. So, yeah, here's our blocks. And then Fridays, I have to wait for a 4 to 6 class, or me. But that's all right. I'm holding off on the course outline for a little bit, just a little bit. Okay. I think there was a textbook, but no copies available in the bookstore. So, which I was relieved about because that's not the textbook that we're going to be using. With that said, if you've already gotten that textbook, you can come see me. We can kind of figure things out. I don't know if I can go in and demand a refund for you, but I'll try. So anyways, because that's not the one we're going to use a free book. Okay. It's by David Lipman. If I ever met this guy, I'd be fangirling pretty hard. So yeah, I'm not the only one, but yeah, I don't know if he created, but he definitely did a lot of work on My Open Math, which we host a version of in My Okanagan Math, which we'll be using for kind of online assignments and stuff like that. And so pretty cool stuff. And I thought, well, if I can use David Lipman's book, I'm going to do that, obviously. So anyways, on that note, maybe dig into chapter 1 for Wednesday, huh? I'll make a note of that later, but might be nice. Is anyone on Discord? I have an account, if that counts. I don't really use it, but Steve set this up. And so there is a math stats data science Discord, which I posted the poster for. And so if you want to join there, we're basically going to do a pre-calculus course. And so all those questions that you have, people will be able to answer. Is there a question? Or?
There's a question. So where's the marketing class? Well, where's the marketing class?
Making my timetable to show that.
This is a marketing class? No, just math. Expecting marketing, huh? Oh, it's a rude awakening. Just go sell. There, marketing. Oh, wrong class. Well, I hope you had fun. No worries. I recognize everyone else, though, pretty. I don't know. It happens, right? I don't know. Anyways. Yeah, no wonder she's like, math, stats, Discord. Why? Fair enough. Anyways, so there are lots of people on there. The idea is, you post a question and then everyone can see it and everyone can see the solution and all that kind of stuff. I'm not very good about checking it. So just be warned. If you need me to help you, you know where to find me. Text, email, office. But it's a nice resource to have. Another great resource is the Success Center. You guys met Kate. Kate is our go-to gal. But also Josh. But Kate knows this course inside and out. And so they do free tutoring. Free to you. They've been paid. So you should just use them. They've got, office hours. They can meet in person. It looks like they still can meet online. Although, I don't know. That kind of thing. But Kate and Josh do math. And so, and they usually hire, a couple of other people throughout the term. But so that's a good resource. Did you guys go to the Success Center on your orientation day? Yeah? So you know where it is? Go into the library, check out the books. Go to the Success Center. Used to be the Learning Center. They go through all these name changes. Same idea though. And then I like to post this grit TED Talk. It was Allison that showed it to me. And so I wouldn't be surprised if you've seen it already. But if you want to get amped up for just kind of school, and it's the beginning of term, right? So if you want to get like, I can do this, you should watch this great TED Talk. It's not very long, but we're not going to watch it here because it's not really, that'd be too cool of me, I think. And it's optional. If you don't want to get amped up, then don't watch it, okay? But it's all kind of, math is 80% attitude, rah, type of deal. So, all right. Any questions so far? What I've done, I should switch it to, because I've got all these hidden things. Student. Got hidden things. All right. So what I do, and I can't remember if I finished. Oh yeah, I got to the test one day. Wanted to check in with you guys and see how we felt about that. Do you guys know your other test dates already? No. It's your very first class, I guess. All right. That's all right. It's not for a while. So in general, we're going to have 2 tests. I'll talk about it later. But beginning of October, beginning of November is usually when I try to make them fall. And so there's wiggle room, but I don't want to pile it up with other test dates, right? So I'll be the flexible one. Yeah? So each week, I like to outline what we're going to do. Obviously, you had orientation week, so that was easy for me. No classes. And then today we're doing introductions, currently. And then I thought we could go through some of those diagnostic quiz questions. No, there's time. Starting Wednesday, I crammed all of chapter 1 into this first week. Might be a little ambitious, so we'll see. But the idea here with me posting what we're going to be doing is so that you can do the pre-readings, right? I don't assume that you've done the pre-readings, but it would certainly help, right? Going back to that, well, the second time I heard it, it was so slow and boring. Hey, she didn't say boring. She just said slow. Right, but that idea of seeing it or hearing it for the second time, it all just kind of starts to make more sense, right? So even if you're reading these sections and, you know, it doesn't really make sense, just keep going, okay? Because we're gonna talk about it again. We're gonna fill in those cracks, right? But at least if you have kind of a foundation, then it'll go a lot smoother, right? I posted your first assignment, which is really just how to enter answers into MOM. So the original is called My Open Math. And so in all the forums and stuff, we just call it MOM, which is cute, right? And so then when we made our own server to host it here locally, called it My Okanagan Math, so we can still call it MOM. But it introduced all these kind of grandmom, and then there was a cyber attack last year, so then we had a stepmom, a separate server, and anyways, it's fun. But so here, so MOM is what we're going to be using. Oh boy. Why? I tried it, but oh my gosh, it's because I'm in student mode. Thank you. Yeah. And I might have just screwed everything up on my end. Anyways, it's like the one thing we're not supposed to do. Don't go into an assignment as a student. Anyways, all right. Back to my normal role. There. Okay. So it just walks you through. So it's just from your end, it just is in Moodle, but it's actually hosted in MOM. And so just walks you through how to enter answers, right? And kind of getting the lingo, right? They say things like nearest hundredth. I don't do that if I've written questions, and I've written a lot of the questions, but there's a huge bank, and so sometimes I'll pull from other questions. But then it clarifies that that's 2 decimal places, for example. And so I think I give you 10 tries. If you're approaching kind of 6, 7 tries, maybe it's time to reach out to me, okay? And so 10 tries is a lot, right? But, you know, I would give you more, but I think by the 10th try, you know, you should reach out to me and we should sort out what's going wrong. Often it's just a little typo, or honestly, if I've written the question, maybe it's a typo on my end. That happens. I'm human. So anyways, but there are 7 questions in here, and it just kind of walks you through how to answer questions in MOM, but I'll count that as your first assignment. Okay, let's see here. Now I'll go back to student mode. It's cleaner that way. All right, so ideally, chapter 1 this week, chapter 2 next week. And then we get into kind of more fun chapters. That's why I want to get them. start the fun stuff already. All right. We're dealing with a lot of holiday Mondays. And that's why my test one day, usually I like to get the test done before a long weekend, for example, that kind of thing. But I guess we could do it before exponents and logs. Anyways, open to suggestions. So if you have a test one date that you would really, really, really like, let me know. I'm open to it. But anyways, that's a ways off. Definitely chapters 1, 2, and 3. I'm trying to squeeze chapter 4 on that test one, but maybe that's my problem. Maybe. All right. Anyways, so I kind of tapered off of test 1 after test 1, but then we move into trig. I know. Sorry, guys. And that's it. Just easy. 14 weeks. Painless. All right. Dun, dun, dun. Course outline. They updated Notability, but it's showing differently than on mine. Oh, I'm getting old. I can't deal with change. Nice. Snazzy, right? I just have to remember to use it. Okay. Same information on the course outline. This was a sneaky switcheroo. Let's see here. I didn't know this until the very first day of classes when I confirmed my schedule. I don't know if did you have this update already? They switched to the B building for the Wednesdays. Yeah, originally we were just always in this room. That's easy to remember, right? But so Wednesday, cuidado, B building. Way over there. But it is the first room on the left, pretty sure. Anyways, so that is worth mentioning because it threw me off. But you've read the calendar description, hopefully. Log and the semi-log. I don't do that. But I guess it makes us look cool. That's important. So, there's also the link to the pre-calc textbook that we'll be using, as well as the content that we'll be covering. In general, I'll be doing, most of the chapters. There's a few sections that we'll skip. So here, but I mean, that's for me to note, probably doesn't concern you. But if you're kind of reading through the entire chapter, notice that we're going through and going from 3.4 to 3.7. Save yourself some reading there. And that. But we're going to have a pretty well even split. We're going to start with kind of the algebra portion and then trigonometry, the second portion. Okay. Maybe I'm alone in this, but especially kind of in high school, and I know I have a math degree, so I should probably have known this before, but it took me a long time to recognize kind of what those names are, right? Trigonometry, I think everyone's kind of like, oh, SOHCAHTOA, that kind of thing, right? Angles, geometry. It's another one of those where, I don't know, triangles, circles, all that kind of fun stuff. Okay, so that's the trigonometry. Algebra is kind of manipulating equations, solving for x, all that kind of fun stuff. Exponents and logs. Yeah. So we'll start there, move into trig. Yeah. Now when I say it, yeah, it's weird to me that I didn't know what those names were for so long. Why didn't anyone teach me? That's what I want to know. Why didn't anyone say it to me? Say it to my face. We usually end with a little bit of stats, which is my jam. So that's fun. But there's a new course that's been added 228 where we do kind of a data science stats mashup. But I think it's not until second term, second year. So you have to wait that long to potentially see me again. And I thought it was just going to be boom, boom. But no, I guess it's in the second term of second year. But you will do some, but that's if time permits. Yeah. There are learning outcomes. These never make sense until you've finished the course. So I will drag these up when we're doing final exam review. Obviously, the final exam has to touch on many of these points. And so it's a good kind of study guide. But for now, I mean, if these make sense, that's great. Enjoy the ride, right? But if not, no worries. Pretty standard layout. We're gonna have assignments. The way I have it is one assignment per section, which is gonna amount to very many assignments. Okay? But it's not really different, right? I'm just breaking them up into sections so that you can highlight which ones were easy and which ones were hard, right? It makes it a little bit easier that way, instead of just putting them all into one assignment, right? A chapter 1 assignment, for example, right? It helps you pinpoint what's difficult for you, right? So it feels like a lot, and it is, but they're only 20%, smashed over, I don't know, how many sections? A lot, I guess. So they're not going to be worth very much. They are just for you to practice, right? Tests. 2 tests. Like I said, the beginning of October. The way it fell now is mid-October. Mid-November is how that would go. But like I said, I'm open to suggestions. I don't specify the distribution of this 40, and that's on purpose. Usually there's a good test and a bad test, often in the other order. No, good test first, bad test second. But that's because you're all bogged down with other things, right? So can't blame you. Right, and so then if I just say 40, then I reserve, at the end of the term, I look at what distribution is more favorable to you, and then I go with that. Okay? And so I don't do that until I have all your final grades, all that kind of stuff. But I do tweak things a little bit in your favor. So there's a cumulative final exam, of course, but it's in the final exam period. And the schedule, they took forever last term getting the schedule out. So they're working with this new scheduling software. Yeah. Anyways, but I heard they're switching. Anyways, so hopefully it'll be a little bit quicker this year, but that's out of my hands. But usually the campus is all a buzz. Final exam schedule's out. It's out. Did you see it? And that's how I find out. Okay. These are just auto-generated policies. Read through them, but there are a couple that I want to highlight because it's important. Okay. First one is I don't give makeup tests. Okay. And so the reason for that is I want to be able to get the mark tests back as soon as possible. So then if I'm waiting for someone to get better, for example, then that could be a whole week. And then everyone's waiting for their marks, and then I have someone write the test and whatever, and it just kind of slows things down. And so I don't offer makeup tests. What I'll do for one test, so you can't skip both, but you can skip one, is I'll just put the weight of that to the final exam, okay? Unless you really, have a reason to miss both tests, that doesn't happen. So remember, stats, right? But you miss a test, one test, whatever reason, I don't care. And I'll put it on the final exam. Hey, but what if you're thinking, well, strategically, if I'm going to have a bad test, I should just skip it then? Don't do that. So to stop you from doing that, if your final exam is better than one of your tests, I'll pretend you weren't here and shift it to the final exam. Fair? Super. Hey, all right. Super fair. Should get a t-shirt. Nice. Okay. So the benefit of writing a test, even if you know you're not prepared, it's not going to go well, whatever, you can keep that in mind as you review your test, right? But think about how you're feeling in the test, right? What questions went well? Which ones were indeed difficult, right? At least you've seen these questions in a test situation once. I bake my tests so to prepare you for the final exam, okay? And so sitting down and having that test experience is really going to pay off for the final exam, okay? And of course I do, practice tests and all that kind of stuff. So don't worry about that. But we're a ways off from a test. Watch, it'll sneak up on me. I know it will. Test one? What? But I thought, you thought what, Emily? You thought what? This one's kind of a downer. So but I do have to highlight it. Psychologically, this one's interesting though. So you have to get at least 45% on the final in order to be able to pass the course. Now that's assuming that the other things that you have going into the final exam get you a pass, right? Even if you didn't write the final and you could pass the course, I'm not allowed to pass you unless you get at least 45% on the final. This is not an issue, right? And so it's only in some courses, you can skip the final and still pass somehow. And so the only time, this happened one time where I had someone say, oh, well, I'm passing, so I'm just not gonna write the final. And so I'm texting them frantically, I have to go write the final. Otherwise I can't pass it. So don't do that. Final. So to me, what's interesting psychologically is if I were to say to you, you have to pass the final to pass the course, I think everyone's like, super fair, reasonable, right? But for me, when I see 45%, I'm like, hey, what? That's obnoxious. But the pass the final is actually higher. It's weird, right? Anyways. So if you can't get 45% on the final, the maximum I can give you is 45%, regardless of kind of what things amount to. Okay. All right. Hopefully that's clear. I know, downer, but them's the rules. Any calculator is fine. Got my favorite. I did let Allison know that this one, so this is kind of the classic wet calculator, which they used to have in the bookstore, but now it's actually kind of hard to find. So I said any Casio scientific calculator, they're all pretty much the same. I've got my eye on the pink one. There's a pink one on Amazon. I haven't got it yet. I haven't pulled the trigger, but I might. I just might. Anyways, any sort of scientific calculator is good. It's good to, you'll be doing lots of other calculations in your other courses, so it's good to kind of get to know one calculator. It's my worst nightmare to show up to a test and not know the calculator that I'm going to be working with. That's nightmares. So get one, lug it around with you everywhere. It's a good night. You're not allowed graphing calculators. Usually I don't care because I had a TI-83 that I loved very, very much. It has passed. The battery is all eroded and it's done, but I still keep it. But this is obviously an accredited program, and so it's better if you're just with the scientific calculator and kind of wean yourself off of the graphing calculator if you have one that you know and love. Obviously, when you're working through assignments and stuff like that, you can have it on the side, right? But for tests, you'll need to use just a scientific calculator. And honestly, any scientific calculator is fine. I will give you a formula sheet, but not today. It's too much. I don't want to scare you off. Important dates, blah, 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 blah. The most important date, well, besides the last day of classes, December 7th, we miss a Friday class, but I don't know. At that point, I won't be too sad about that. I'll be pretty beat. Now you're in this kind of cohort program, and everyone's gonna have kind of keep a good eye on where everyone's at. So if you're slipping, then you know, come talk to me, talk to Allison, talk to whoever you need to, right? But just as a note, okay, the last day to withdraw with a W, so withdraw, is October 27th. Okay. The reason I point that out is because if you have a fail on your transcript, it counts towards your GPA, dragging it down, right? A W doesn't, okay? And so by October 27th, you'll have a really good idea of if you're gonna be able to pull this off or not, okay? And so I encourage you to make a note of that, right? Not gonna be an issue, but everyone has a bad term, right? And might be this term, might be next term. Maybe you're lucky and you never have a bad term. I had a bad term. Everyone has a bad term. You don't know when it's going to happen. And if it's this term, one, I'm sorry. Two, think about withdrawing instead of just letting it all go and failing, okay? Because I've seen that too many times. Even though I do this spiel every term. Better things to do. In terms of the policies, I'm pretty sure Allison covered all these, or, you know, someone, Owen, David, Frank, someone covered all these policies in orientation week. I wasn't there for it, but yeah, you know the drill. You have to write the final exam during the final exam time, obviously. There are very rare exceptions. And if you need to know what those are, then you can click that link. Academic integrity. You guys done that Moodle thing? I haven't looked at it. But did it? Cool. Don't cheat. I don't like it. I do not like it. And puts me in an awkward position, right? So don't cheat. Be nice to each other, be nice to me. That's what that one is. Accessibility services. Hopefully they've talked about accessibility services if if you need any extra support, then they would be the ones to check in with. Does have to get approved and things like that, but if you suspect that you might be able to make use of accessibility services, then talk to me and I'll kind of send you their way. And then I don't have any say over it, but it's a good resource. Level the playing field. Counseling services, free counseling. Hey, that's pretty good. All right. I feel like there was something else. Any questions while I try to think on what that thing was I was going to say? Okay. All right. Seeing none. Oops. I'll skip question 1. I think it's relatively well done. I was impressed. Simplifying. This is the first one that I do. I kind of want to. We'll go through this in chapter 4. I'm going to try to avoid writing as much as possible this term. We sold our house in Edmonton. I've got like a weird living arrangement. I move in with my husband over the summers, and then I live here for the school years. He's in the military, so right now he's on a ship in the Indo-Pacific bobbing around until December. So, but we were posted to Edmonton, loved it there, had to sell our house. We're posted to Esquimalt, which is Victoria now. But I was cleaning and packing and lugging stuff around. He was already gone, so I couldn't make him do it. And now I have carpal tunnel for the beginning of term. Usually I develop it for the end of term. So this is a new hot take, I guess. Anyways, there, a little bit about me, huh? And we've been posted to Ottawa. If anyone has an Ottawa connection, love to talk about that. No. All right, so this one, what I was noticing was everyone was just overzealous and wanted to foil this thing, but because brackets mean multiplying and these variables next to each other mean multiplying, we're just multiplying these things, right? So we can ditch these brackets. And I like to just collect like terms, x's with x's, y's with y's. And like I said, we are going to be doing this again, but just so it doesn't haunt you forever, right? Way, little slant. Won't charge extra for that. All right, what do we do with these exponents? So if I'm multiplying, I can add them together, right? And so that makes, oops. If like I said, I'll blame that they changed this notability. But I'm also rusty. -2 plus 6, x to the 4, and y to the -2 plus, or -1 plus -2 is -3. Or if you prefer, a negative exponent means it goes in the denominator. Whoops. Where's the undo here? There. You can bump it down if you want, but we'll do exponents. The rest were great. These ones were good. I was extra impressed with how well you did on the multiplying and dividing scientific notation. I got these wrong when I did the run through. It's like, oh, yeah. Slow down. But you multiply these guys, and add the exponents again, or subtract the exponents if you're dividing, right? And then make adjustments. This one was good. This one was good. Then, yeah. You were not the only one. And that's totally fine. First off, I mean, it does say in degrees, right? And I remember in high school, I used to have this, well, I had a label maker, so I had labels on a lot of stuff. But I used to have a sticker on my calculator that said radian degree mode, right? Because you have to switch between radians and degrees. Now this is in degrees. I didn't have anyone, so I was checking if anyone was in radians. Obviously, that's not an error. It's just a little slip up. But everyone was all good. How do you know if you're in radian or degree mode? Hey, I'm in radian mode. There's a little, you have to squint, okay? It's at the top of your calculator when you turn it on. There's a little DRG. What does G stand for? Gradient?
My brain, but I don't.
We'll stick to D and G, or D and R, I guess. D degrees, R radians. Now, how do I change it? And do I have one of these calculators? I have like so many different calculator apps, it's crazy, but I don't have this one. Anyways, how can I do this? Well, all right. Haha. Hey guys. Degrees, radians. Nice. Yeah, no, how do I do it? Shift, setup, angle unit. Oops. 2. Whee. And I want it in degrees. And ta-da! Oh, sorry, it's so shaky. Looks good on my end, but I'm like right up to it. Anyways, so you can always look up the instruction manual. What? They don't make instruction manuals for calculators? They sure do. They really do. All kinds of tips and tricks. Anyway, so you want to make sure you're in degree mode. Okay. All right. So a couple of things that we'll make use of, right, is, okay, this means what? This means 90 degrees, right, with a little square. Usually that's fine. Everyone's all right with that. Okay. The total angles have to add to 180 degrees, right? Or the other non-right angles, non-90 degree angles have to add to 90 degrees, right? And so to find angle A, there, it's in the bottom corner, but angle A, that looks like greater than, oh, there. I'm gonna go 90 degrees minus 68 degrees, oops, which is what, 22 degrees? Done. That one's good, right? And then we want to find the lengths of these sides. We have the one side here. Now, as a rule of thumb, you want to try to avoid using numbers that you calculated, right? If you have the option of using a number that was given to you, right? Just in case. It's just playing it safe, right? So I'm going to try to be using this 68 degrees and this 10, right? As much as I can. And what do you know? I can. Let's see if I can. I'll start with B. Right? So I've got this 68 So from 68, I need to figure out the opposite, the hypotenuse, and the adjacent. That's a weird order. The hypotenuse is nice. It's easier to, or that's the easiest one to figure out, I think. All right. It's the longest one. All right. Opposite is the one that's opposite the angle. Okay, so B is going to be the opposite, which means that the 10 is the adjacent to 68. Obviously, if we were working with this 22 degrees, this would be the opposite, this would be the adjacent, and this would still be the hypotenuse, right? So, but you would get the same answers, assuming your 22 degrees is right, which it is, I think. Has anyone confirmed it? I can't be trusted. Not with basic math. There was a time, so I did my undergrad in math, and then I did my master's in stats. And at some point, I caught myself just confirming 1 + 1, just in case. So that's where my level of mental math is at. It's not good. Doing a math degree really ruins you for that kind of stuff. So I don't do multiplication. I don't do definitely not subtraction. Are you insane? Division, no. I don't do any mental math. You'll get used to it. All right. So of these, where's my little pointer? Here. I want to solve for B. Okay. I've got the opposite, which I want to solve for. I know the adjacent. And so in that case, so katoa, right? And they're here, right? I've got opposite over adjacent. That's the one I'm going to use. So the tan, or the tangent tan of 68 degrees is going to be B over the adjacent, which is 10. Solving for B, all I have to do is multiply the tan of 68 by 10. So then B is tan of 68. I get 2.475, blah, 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 times 10. So I get, and you know what? I'll get bossy about it right away. Approximately equal to, if I'm going to do decimals, and at some point I'm going to be rounding, okay? 24.75. Keeps going, right? And that's why I do the squiggly equals, just to indicate that I dropped some decimals here, right? Decimals can make a huge difference, especially in your line of work. Okay, so you don't want to get too sloppy about it, but the 5 was followed by a 0, and I just gave up. That's fine. At least 2 decimal places. I'll just, if it's important, right? If I need more than 2 or 3, I'll tell you. Okay. All right. How about C? If I want to solve for C, well, C is the hypotenuse. And again, I'm going to leverage, where's it? I'm going to leverage the 68 degrees and the adjacent. And so the adjacent and the hypotenuse are in the cosine, which means that the cosine of 68 degrees is going to be the same as C. No. Got myself. Why would I do the same calculation twice? No, I wouldn't. Is 10 divided by C, the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Which means that C is, how am I doing this? Kind of, I'm doing a little switcheroo, right? Should use the pointer. It's over here. Right, I'm going to multiply the C over to this side, and then I'm going to divide the cos 68 over to the other side. And so then I get 10 divided by the cosine of 68, which is 10 divided by the cosine of 68. I get roughly 26.69, not degrees. Roughly. We could keep going with these properties, right? When we adjust for rounding, or if we use the exact values, then a squared, or 10 squared plus b squared should equal c squared, that kind of thing, right? So we can keep going, but that's all for later in the course. And then I'd say the real troublemaker here is these quadratics, right? And if you nailed these, bravo, bravo. Okay. What is it that we're trying to do here? Okay, so the roots of an equation are the values of x where this thing equals 0, right? So what can we do? One of the things that we can do is we can visualize this. Who knows what's in here? It's nothing. In Desmos. Desmos is a free app. And if you haven't used it, I'll be pulling it up every now and then because sometimes it's nice to see just equations and things like that. Okay, but I think it was, oh, and can I remember how to do that cool thing where I split the screen? No, I cannot. X squared plus 3x minus 10. X squared plus 3x minus 10. Okay, scroll out here. Parabola, right? Which again, we'll review, and so it's not a big deal. But the roots, I don't have a pointer in this. I only have it in my note taking. So I'm allowed to walk over here, but I'm gonna do a closed captioning style. And I'm pointing at the places where the graph crosses the x-axis, right? Where the equation is equal to 0. Yeah. So that's graphically what we're gonna be doing. So the answers, you can just find the answers here. When x is 2, here. Oh, it's all coming back to me, all my mad skills here. Saved photos. It's probably not the fastest way to do it, but oops. And there. Now I can. Hey, it was supposed to have the 2, 0 and negative 5, 0. If you don't have the graph, how are you supposed to do this? Right? Then one of the ways that you could do it is, maybe I'll say C graph, right? Or another way that you could do it is to say, now this way does not make sense to me personally. What adds to 3 and multiplies to negative 10? I don't like that. Oh, yeah. It makes no sense to me, right? It has to add to 3 and multiply to negative 10. Oops. Now we've got the inside scoop already, right? Oh, negative 5 and 2, that works. Well, I know, right? So for me, even though it's slower, because I don't have that part of the brain that does that for me, it's very rare that I can get there. Oh, it has to multiply to negative 3 it has to add to negative 3, positive 3, and multiply to negative 10. I can't get there. And so I'm gonna mix them up. Another thing that we can do, right? So that would be the factoring. So that would look like this. Plus, so minus, because that way x has to be positive 5.
Yes, x plus 5, x minus 2. So when you solve for x, you get the minus 5 and 2.
Thank you. Thank you. Like I said, I already confess that my brain does not work this way. I use the quadratic equation or the quadratic formula for everything. But I want to give you all the options. Okay, let's see here. Is it plus 5? Times x minus 2 has to equal 0. It's okay. Lots of different ways to solve things. Okay. So now when x is equal to -5, or then -5 plus 5 is 0, 0 times anything is 0, check, right? If x is equal to 2, we got there eventually, then 2 minus 2 is 0. Who cares what it's multiplied by? It makes 0. Great. The other way that we could do it, it's not my way, it's the guaranteed way, is to use the quadratic formula. Now, the only thing we need to remember is, well, do we have a quadratic? What's a quadratic? Something that starts with x squared, right? So that's your first step. So I've got x squared plus 3x minus 10, I guess, is equal to 0. That's fine. Use a different color. Then I have to remember that this means that a is equal to 1, right? 1x squared. We don't write the 1. B is equal to 3, and C is equal to -10. Make sure you get the positives and negatives. Then I can grab these and throw them into here. I'm going to get 2 solutions, right? Because it's a parabola. Unless it's above the x-axis, can happen. Or below, can happen too. I know. If it crosses, then we'll get the solution. So then x is equal to -b, which in this case is 3, plus minus the square root of b, which is 3 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1 times c, which is -10. Divided by 2 times 1. So I get -3 plus minus the square root of 9 plus 40. Oh, phew. Yeah, I've got this, guys. Nice. Divided by 2. -3 plus the square root of 49. 7 plus -4, right? 4 divided by 2 is 2. X is -3 plus 7 divided by 2. I'll just do a comma because I want to do the negative version as well. So -3 minus 7 divided by 2. So then x is equal to 4 divided by 2. I'm just going to go for it. 2, and -3 minus 7, -10 divided by 2 is -5. Works every time. See, you don't have to factor. We'll do factoring, but like I said, I'm not very good at it. And that's okay. For this next one, I'm just going to go straight to the quadratic equation here. Bless you. A is 1, B is 5, C is -4. He is just recognizing the quadratic. It's not always easy, right? And then picking out what A, B, and C are, and then you're off to the races. I would, of course, give you, just like here, I would give you the quadratic formula on a formula sheet. Okay. So, all right, we're ready to show off here. X is negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a, or you can just memorize it. All the cool kids are doing it. Negative 5 plus minus. This is where I wouldn't recommend factoring. It's going to be not that fun. Wait. Need more space. 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 4. 25 plus 16. 1 nasty 41 divided by 2 times 1. Negative 5 plus minus the square root of 41. I'm just going to keep it as that. If you do the square root of 41, it makes a not very nice number. Divided by 2. Leave it there. That's the exact answer. If you went forward and you got the decimal answers, that would be the approximate answer, right? The exact answer is always encouraged, right? Sometimes it's not as nice. These calculators do the exact answer by default. So if you want the decimal version, you have to hit the S arrow, double arrow D. I don't know what that stands for. I think the D is decimal. Standard to decimal, maybe? I don't know. This is the exact answer, and I'm happy with that. That's fine. You can stop there. Okay. Unless the question says round to 3 decimal places, then you'd have to keep going. Okay. Because we can. Let's put that into, so I've got x squared. Oh, dang, what was it? Oh, dang. Plus 5x minus 4. It's going to be the blue one. It rounds to 2 decimal places, right? So this is one way that you can check your work. Once we're here, I'll remind you again, but I think it's nice to be able to visualize the function and just kind of recognize, take a step back and recognize what we're doing. All right. Any questions? Let's see here. I'll put it at the top. But it is mine. But I'll say read chapter 1. How about this? Skim chapter 1 for Wednesday. I'm sure you have other things going on. Just flip through it. Oh, and I want to get in the habit of using my stickers. How about a preemptive great job? All right. Any questions, comments, concerns? I release you. I'll stop this recording here.